Hey everybody, it's Lindsay and I'm here today to share with you a tutorial on double die cut inlay. So let's go ahead and get started. I've got this large Sizzix die and this is the borders and hydrangeas and this is a steel rule die. Now most of the time you see me using the very thin, wafer thin dies. These are very large dies and they actually have a blade in them. They can cut more than one sheet of cardstock at a time. They are very handy for if you're making gift baskets or something like that. They're very handy for that. But today I'm going to use it to cut some foam. Now this particular die has a border on it that is a chevron border, and I do not have a stamp that is a chevron. So I went ahead and I'm just going to cut some fun foam with this die. Now because this is so large, it's going to cut nice and cleanly, no rough edges. And here you can see I ran that through. You just put one cutting plate down, your die, and another cutting plate on top. You can run that straight through your machine and you end up with this nice piece of foam that comes out very cleanly. Now I'm just going to attach some double-sided adhesive to the back of this, and I have a piece of cardstock in my MISTI ready to go. Now this is just a white piece of cardstock that measures 3.5 inches across by 4 3/4 inches tall. And I just have that lined up on the bottom of my MISTI there. It's not in the corner. I've got it shoved over to the left a little bit, but I have it lined up with a grid line. So I know when I move this up, I know it's going to be straight. And here you can see, I can see right through the lid of my MISTI to make sure that that chevron border die that I'm going to use as a stamp is also straight. So I know it's nice and straight on my MISTI. It's not going to be crooked or the chevrons are going to be wonky. So I'm using some color box. This is in the shade of putty, this ink. It's very light. You can barely see it on the paper, but I'm going to give it a few stamps here just to make it a little bit darker and intensify that color a little bit more. This color is no longer available. However, Hero Arts has a very similar color, and Hero Arts are very good inks as well. And I have that linked up over on the supply list on my blog. So just so you know, this ink is no longer available, but I did give you a very, very close alternative to what I'm using here today. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue to stamp this chevron on the back. This is going to be a background. And I don't want them to be exactly the same spacing apart. I want them to some to be really close, some to be further apart. So I'm just moving this up randomly, not really giving it a whole lot of thought. And I'm just going to continue to stamp these and double stamp them the majority of the time to get that nice intense color. And you can see what a nice job this foam stamp does. I was surprised it worked this well. I've seen a couple other stampers do this, and so I wanted to give it a try, and I was really surprised at how well it did work. The MISTI does kind of make all the difference with this. For me it did, just because I can give this a double stamp if any of it turns out splotchy. Again, I know this is an expensive tool, but for me it's worth the price just by the amount of cardstock I save using this. So I'm going to go ahead and finish stamping this, and you can see my chevrons are not spaced perfectly apart. Some are closer, some are further apart. That's just the look I was going for. And there I've got a nice chevron background that looks like I stamped it with a background stamp, but really it was just a piece of foam. So I'm going to go ahead and take this large peony outline die. This is from Memory Box, and I'm just placing that in the center roundabout of that chevron piece I just stamped. I'll go ahead and run this through my die cutting machine, and I'm also running this same die through with a piece of coral cardstock that I had on hand. Whenever I remove these from my die cut machine, I tried to make sure that I kept as much of this intact as I could, just because it makes the inlaying so much more easier whenever you can just pick out pieces that you need. Now you need something to attach everything to, so I'm just taking that space that has nothing on the back of it, and I attached a piece of computer paper with some glue, and that's just going to give me a base to attach everything to. You can't attach something to an empty space. So now I'm going to go ahead and take that outline, the coral outline, and I'm just going to place that in. I've put some glue on the back of it, and it falls right into place very easily. I'm also going to be using my quick sticks tool today just to help nudge things into place a little easier, and that really helps speeds up the process. Now, it's bound to happen. You're going to get some glue seeping out. There really is no way to get about this unless you use like the stick it glue paper. That would work really well for this technique. I don't have any on hand, so I am forced to use glue. So now I'm just going to go ahead and start using this quick sticks tool, and I'm just taking that and smearing some glue in each open space, and then coming in and inlaying all those little chevron pieces that I die cut before. These pop right into place. It doesn't take too awfully long. I want to say this took me about 7-8 minutes to get this done, so not a whole lot of time in the long run. And I'll just continue to place these in. Now, because I left these all in that die cut, I can very easily line these up. I'm not sorting through a pile of pieces here to try and pick and fit and see which one goes where. It just pops out nicely. I can pop it in the next flower over and I'm good to go. So that really sped up the process. There is a dryer sheet trick and also a wax paper trick for your die cutting machine. You can find tutorials of those all over YouTube if you're curious on how that will help you with this technique, but it's something to look for if you're having trouble keeping your die cuts in place whenever they come out of your die cutting machine. So with that all inlaid, I'm going to go ahead and use this Hello Word die. This is from Paper Tray Ink. And I'm just going to go ahead and cut that out. Now, I know I just did all this work inlaying that, but I'm going to go ahead and cut just a bit of it out. I've also cut that same word die with a piece of black cardstock, and then I am just taking a piece of computer paper that fits over the back of that negative hello space, and I have put double-sided adhesive all over the back of that. So now what I can do is just pop this hello die right into place. And you could also do this on the flower. The liquid glue was just a little bit easier for me to work with there. And then I'll also take out the center of the O and the E, and I will inlay those as well. And again, with that double-sided adhesive on there already, they just pop right into place and stick down. You just want to give them a firm little shove with your fingers to make sure they adhere nicely. So once all that was done, I didn't want to do anything to distract from all that work, so I just put some double-sided adhesive on the back of that inlaid piece, and I'm going to mat it to a piece of black cardstock. Now, this black cardstock only goes about 1/8 of an inch on either side of this, so not a very large mat, but enough to give it a little bit of a graphic look. And I did put quite a bit of adhesive on the back of this just because I didn't want that liquid glue to bubble up and warp this cardstock. So this just helps it to all lay nice and flat in the end when it's all dry. So I'll just go ahead and adhere that on. And then I've got a piece of fun foam that's slightly smaller than that black mat. Again, double-sided adhesive on both sides. And I will just mount this on an A2 top folding white card base. Very clean and simple card. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and this technique. As always, I will leave you with a close-up and just a few pictures. For more information and the supply list, you can head to my blog, craftingwhilecaffeinated.wordpress.com. The link is in the description box below, as well as that I in the top right-hand corner. That will get you there too. Thank you guys so much for watching, and happy crafting.